The emergency room doctor pressed his fingers against my chest, and I bit down so hard I tasted blood. For broken ribs. Again. Same spot. Same lunatic. Victor's face flashed in my mind. That sick grin as his boot came down on me one last time. Everyone kept asking why I didn't fight back. If they only knew what these hands could do. If they only knew who I really was. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. I met Ivy on a Tuesday night at the Riverside Veterans Center, 6 months before her brother would break my ribs for the first time. She was sitting alone in the corner of the support group circle, picking at the sleeve of her cardigan. Long dark hair, tired eyes, the kind of beautiful that doesn't need trying. When it was her turn to speak, she said her younger cousin had just gotten back from deployment with PTSD, and she didn't know how to help him. Her voice cracked when she said it. After the session ended, I walked over. Told her I'd been through some rough patches after getting out. That time and patience were the best things she could give him. I didn't mention where I'd served or what I'd done. Just said I was former military, kept it vague. She smiled for the first time that night. A real one. Thank you, she said softly. I'm Ivy. Adrian. We grabbed coffee at the diner next door. 2 hours flew by like 20 minutes. She told me she ran a small bookkeeping business from home, that she loved hiking but hadn't gone in months, that she missed her parents every single day since they died in a car accident 3 years ago. I told her I worked in private security, another half-truth. Told her I liked old movies and terrible diners. Didn't tell her I'd spent the last 8 years in special forces running operations I couldn't name in countries I couldn't mention. Some things you don't lead with. By the end of the night, she'd written her number on a napkin. My chest felt lighter than it had in years. We started seeing each other every weekend. Hiking trails, farmers markets, quiet dinners at her place. She cooked this incredible lasagna that reminded me of home. I fixed the leaky faucet in her kitchen and the squeaky hinge on her bedroom door. Simple, easy, real. One night, about a month in, we were sitting on her couch watching some black and white detective movie when she went quiet. The kind of quiet that means something's coming. Adrian, she said carefully, there's something I need to tell you about my brother. I turned to face her. Okay. She pulled her knees up to her chest. His name is Victor. He's protective. Really protective. After our parents died, he kind of lost it. Became obsessed with taking care of me. He doesn't think anyone's good enough. I get it, I said. Older brother looking out for his sister. That's normal. No. Her voice dropped. It's not normal. He scared off every guy I've ever dated. Threatened them. Followed them. One guy ended up in the hospital. My stomach tightened. Ivy, I know. She looked at me with those tired, beautiful eyes. I know I should have told you sooner. But I really like you, Adrian. And I didn't want to scare you away before you even met him. I reached for her hand. I'm not scared of your brother. She squeezed back, but I could feel her shaking. You should be. I met Victor 2 weeks later at a family barbecue Ivy reluctantly invited me to. He was waiting at the front door when I pulled up. 6'3", maybe 220, arms covered in tattoos, jaw tight enough to crack walnuts. Former MMA fighter, Ivy had mentioned. Still trained at some gym downtown. You must be Adrian. His handshake was a test. Hard. Prolonged. I matched it. Didn't flinch. Good to meet you, Victor. His eyes scanned me up and down like I was a threat assessment. Which, in a way, I was. Ivy says you're former military. That's right. What branch? Army. What did you do? Security. Convoy protection mostly. All lies. Smooth once. He stared at me for another beat, then stepped aside. Let's see how long you last. The barbecue was tense. Victor barely spoke to me, but I could feel his eyes tracking every move I made. Every time Ivy laughed at something I said, his jaw clenched tighter. When Ivy went inside to grab drinks, Victor moved closer. She tell you about the last guy? He asked quietly. She mentioned it. Good. Then you know what happens when someone wastes her time. He leaned in. I don't care if you were in the army. I don't care what you think you can handle. You hurt my sister. You disrespect her. You even think about walking away from her without a damn good reason. I'll put you in the ground. I kept my voice even. Calm. I'm not here to hurt her. Everyone says that. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then they do it anyway. Ivy came back with 2 beers, handed me one, and slipped her arm around mine. Victor's expression shifted, something dark flickering behind it. Not just anger. Control. That's what this was about. Not protection. Control. I saw it clear as day, but I kept my mouth shut. Stayed polite. Played the role. Because the last thing I needed was Victor digging into who I really was. 3 weeks later, Victor caught us kissing outside Ivy's apartment. I heard his truck before I saw it. Engine roaring, tires screeching as he pulled into the parking lot. Ivy's whole body went stiff. Go inside, I said quietly. Adrian, please. Just go inside. She hesitated, then ran for her door. Victor stormed toward me, fists already clenched. I told you to stay away from her. She's an adult, Victor. She makes her own choices. Wrong answer. The first punch came fast. Caught me in the jaw. My training kicked in instinctively. Block, counter, disable, but I forced it back down. I couldn't show him what I was capable of. Not yet. So I took the hit. Stumbled back. Let him think he had the upper hand. The second punch landed in my ribs. Then the third. Then he swept my legs, and I went down hard. His boot came down on my chest, and I heard the snap. 2 ribs. Cracked clean through. Stay? Away. From her. He walked back to his truck like nothing happened. I laid there in the parking lot, gasping for air, staring up at the night sky. And I made a choice. I wasn't going to fight him. Not yet. Because when the time came, I wanted to destroy everything he'd built, not just his body. I didn't tell Ivy about the hospital visit. Told her I had food poisoning, stayed home for a week while the ribs healed enough to move without wincing. The doctors wrapped me tight, gave me painkillers I didn't take, and asked questions I didn't answer. When I finally showed up at her door the following Saturday, she knew. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and her eyes filled with tears. He did this to you. It wasn't a question. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me. Ivy, don't. Her voice cracked. Don't tell me it's fine. Don't tell me it was an accident. I know my brother. She reached out slowly, fingers hovering over my chest where the bruises were still dark purple beneath my shirt. I caught her hand gently. I'm okay. You're not. She pulled away, pacing her small living room. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is what he does. He ruins everything good in my life because he thinks he owns me. I stayed quiet. Let her get it out. You should leave, she whispered. You should walk away before he really hurts you. That's not happening. She spun around. Adrian, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I moved closer, kept my voice steady. Your brother's a bully who's using fear to control you. And I'm not giving him that power. He put you in the hospital. And I'm still here. Her lip trembled. Why? Because you're worth it. She broke then, collapsed into my arms, sobbing into my shoulder while I held her carefully, ribs screaming but not letting go. We made a pact that night. We'd keep seeing each other, but we'd be smart about it. No public displays. No social media posts. We'd meet at my place instead of hers. Keep Victor in the dark as long as possible. It felt wrong, hiding like criminals, but it bought us time. Time to fall deeper. Time for me to realize I was in love with her. Over the next 2 months, Ivy became my everything. She'd come over after work, kick off her shoes, and curl up on my couch like she'd lived there forever. We'd cook together, her teaching me recipes her mom used to make, me burning half of them while she laughed. She told me things she'd never told anyone. How lonely she'd been since her parents died. How Victor's obsession had isolated her from friends, from life. How she'd started to believe maybe she didn't deserve normal happiness. I told her she deserved everything. Told her about my childhood in Ohio, my dad who taught me to fix cars, my mom who died when I was 17. Told her I joined the military to find purpose, stayed because I was good at it. Still didn't tell her about special forces, about the missions, about what these hands had done in the dark. Some doors you don't open until you're ready for what's behind them. One Friday night, we were watching a documentary about Everest climbers when her phone buzzed. Victor's name lit up the screen. Her whole body tensed. "Don't answer it," I said quietly. "If I don't, he'll show up here." She answered. "Put it on speaker." "Where are you?" Victor's voice was sharp. "At home." "What? Liar. I'm standing outside your apartment right now. Your car's gone." Ivy's eyes met mine, panicked. "I'm at the grocery store," she said quickly. "Needed some things." "Which store?" "The one on 5th. Silence. "Then, I'll meet you there. We need to talk." He hung up. Ivy was already grabbing her keys, hands shaking. "I have to go. I have to go right now, or he'll know." "Hey." I caught her shoulders gently. "Breathe. You're okay." "I'm not okay. He's tracking me, Adrian. He's always tracking me." My jaw tightened. "Does he have access to your phone?" She nodded miserably. "He set up some family location app after our parents died. Said it was for safety. I tried turning it off once, and he lost his mind." That explained a lot. "Okay, go meet him. Act normal. Tell him you've been busy with work. What if he asks about you? Tell him the truth. We broke up after he warned you. Say you haven't seen me." She hesitated. "You're okay with that?" "I'm okay with keeping you safe." She kissed me hard, then ran out the door. I spent the next hour pacing my apartment, every instinct screaming at me to follow her, to make sure Victor didn't cross another line. But I stayed put, trusted her. She texted me 2 hours later. "He bought it. Gave me a lecture about being more careful. I'm home now." "Good. Get some rest. I miss you already." "Miss you too." A week later, Victor found out anyway. I still don't know how. Maybe he went through her texts. Maybe he followed her one night. Maybe he just had a sixth sense for his sister's happiness. All I know is I was leaving the gym one Thursday evening when his truck blocked me in the parking lot. He got out slowly. Wasn't alone this time. 2 guys flanked him, one tall and wiry, the other built like a freight train. "Thought I told you to stay away from my sister," Victor said, walking closer. "And I thought your sister was an adult who makes her own choices." Wrong thing to say. The wiry guy moved first, fast, throwing a hook at my ribs, the same ribs Victor had cracked before. I blocked it this time, shoved him back, but the big guy grabbed me from behind, held me in place while Victor stepped up. "You think you're tough?" he hissed. "You think you can hide from me?" His fist slammed into my stomach. Once, twice, then lower, into the ribs again. Fresh crack. Different side this time. I could have broken free. Could have dislocated the big guy's shoulder in 2 seconds, put Victor on the pavement in 3. But I didn't. Because if I showed them what I could do, Victor would dig deeper. He'd find out who I really was. And I couldn't risk that. Not yet. So I took it. Grunted through the pain. Let them think they were winning. "Next time," Victor growled in my ear, "I won't stop at ribs." They left me there in the parking lot, gasping, clutching my side. 2 broken ribs in 6 months. And I still wasn't ready to break my cover. Ivy cried when she saw me that night. Begged me to go to the police. Begged me to press charges. I told her it wouldn't matter. Victor had connections. Friends in low places. He'd wriggle out of it, and it would only make things worse. "Then what do we do?" she whispered. I pulled her close, careful with my ribs. "We wait. We plan. And when the time's right, we end this." "How?" I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know yet. But I was starting to get an idea. 3 weeks passed in careful silence. Ivy and I played it safe. No meetings, only encrypted messages, plans on hold. My ribs healed slower this time. Every breath reminded me that Victor was escalating, and patience had a limit. But I needed information. So I started digging. I called an old buddy from my unit, Marcus Chun, who'd transitioned into private investigation after leaving Special Forces. Gave him Victor's full name, address, vehicle registration. "What am I looking for?" Marcus asked. "Everything. Criminal record, known associates, financials, where he spends his time. Anything that tells me who this guy really is." "You planning something, Adrian?" "Just staying prepared." He sent me the file 2 days later. Victor James Harlow. Age 32. Former amateur MMA fighter with a record of 8 wins, for losses, all 4 losses by disqualification for excessive aggression. Banned from 2 gyms for starting fights outside the cage. No felony convictions, but multiple assault charges that mysteriously disappeared before trial. Someone was making his problems go away. The file included photos of Victor with known associates, guys with records ranging from drug distribution to racketeering. One name stood out: Dominic Raines, owner of an underground fight club operating out of a warehouse near the docks. That's when things started clicking into place. Victor wasn't just a violent older brother. He was connected to organized crime. And Ivy had no idea. I needed to confirm it, so I did something reckless. I went to one of Victor's fights. The warehouse was exactly what you'd expect. Concrete floors, chain-link cage in the center, crowd of gamblers and criminals pressed shoulder to shoulder. Cash changing hands. Blood on the canvas. Victor was in the cage when I arrived, pounding some poor kid half his size into the mat. No referee stepped in. No rules. Just violence for entertainment and profit. I stayed in the back, hood up, face hidden. When the fight ended, kid unconscious, crowd roaring, Victor climbed out and walked straight to Dominic Raines. They talked briefly, then Dominic handed Victor an envelope. Thick. Cash, most likely. This wasn't just training. This was income. And suddenly, Ivy's bookkeeping business made sense in a darker way. Was Victor using her to clean his money? I confronted Ivy the next night at my apartment. Does Victor ever ask you to handle his finances? I asked carefully. She looked confused. Sometimes. He's terrible with money. What? What kind of things does he have you do? Just basic stuff. Deposits. Transfers. He pays me a little for it. She frowned. Adrian, what's going on? I showed her the file Marcus sent. Watched her face drain of color as she read through Victor's associations, the underground fights, the names connected to organized crime. No, she whispered. No, he wouldn't, Ivy. Look at the transactions. She pulled up her laptop with shaking hands, logged into the bookkeeping software she used for Victor's accounts, started tracing deposits and transfers. Her face went white. Oh my God. Her voice was barely audible. These amounts, these sources. Adrian, I've been laundering money for him. I've been helping him without even knowing. I knelt beside her chair. This isn't your fault. I could go to prison for this. You won't. We'll figure this out. But even as I said it, I knew Victor had trapped her perfectly. If she went to the police, she'd incriminate herself. If she confronted him, he'd use her guilt as leverage. We were running out of options. Victor must have sensed something was off because he showed up at Ivy's apartment unannounced the next afternoon. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I'd come over to help her sort through the financial records. We were sitting at her kitchen table when we heard his key in the lock. Ivy's eyes went wide. He has a spare key. I forgot. The door swung open. Victor froze when he saw me. His expression shifted from surprise to cold, calculating rage. What the hell is he doing here? Ivy stood up quickly. Victor, I told you to stay away from him. His voice was dangerously quiet. I told you what would happen. She's an adult, I said, standing slowly. You don't get to control her life. And you don't get to disrespect me in my sister's home. It's my home, Ivy snapped. Not yours. Wrong move. Victor's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Hard. She gasped. Victor, you're hurting. I moved without thinking, stepped between them, broke his grip with a controlled strike to the pressure point in his forearm. Basic defensive technique, but effective. Victor's eyes narrowed. You know how to fight. I know how to protect people. Then protect yourself. He came at me fast, faster than I expected. Through a combination that would have dropped most men. I blocked, deflected, kept my movements minimal. Didn't counter. Didn't reveal the full extent of my training. But Victor was smarter than I gave him credit for. You're holding back, he said, circling me. Why are you holding back? Ivy was screaming for us to stop, but Victor wasn't listening. He feinted left, then drove his shoulder into my chest like a linebacker. Slammed me against Ivy's dining table. The edge caught me right across the ribs. the same ones he'd broken twice before. Something cracked. Third time. Pain exploded through my chest. I doubled over, gasping. Victor leaned close, voice low enough that only I could hear. I know you're hiding something, and I'm going to find out what. Then he turned to Ivy. If I catch him here again, I'll kill him, and you'll help me bury the body, because you're already in deep enough. He walked out. Ivy rushed to my side, tears streaming. Adrian, oh God, call Marcus Chun. I gasped, giving her the number. Tell him I need a full background check on Dominic Raines. Everything, including federal watch lists. You need a hospital. I need leverage. I forced myself upright, every breath agony. Victor just made a mistake. He threatened you in your own home, and he implied you're complicit in his operations. I don't understand. He's scared, Ivy. Scared I'm getting too close to the truth, which means we're on the right track. She helped me to the couch, hands trembling. What truth? I looked at her, ribs screaming, resolve hardening. Your brother isn't just violent. He's a criminal, and if we're going to stop him, we need to prove it. How? By making him think he's already won. Marcus's full report on Dominic Raines arrived 48 hours later, and it was worse than I thought. Dominic wasn't just running underground fights. He was a mid-level operator in a larger network, loan sharking, illegal gambling, money laundering through multiple shell companies. Federal agents had been building a case for 2 years, but couldn't get enough evidence to move. Victor was his enforcer and fighter. The perfect combination of muscle and brutality. And Ivy's bookkeeping business was buried right in the middle of it. We have to go to the FBI, Ivy said, staring at the documents spread across my coffee table. Not yet. I was lying on the couch, ribs taped so tight I could barely breathe. If we go now, they'll arrest everyone, including you. We need to separate you from this operation first. How? By creating a paper trail that shows you had no knowledge of the illegal activity. Documented evidence that you were being used. She looked at me like I was insane. And how do we do that? You're going to ask Victor questions. Record the conversations. Get him to admit he never told you where the money was really coming from. He'll never admit that. He will if he thinks you're scared and compliant. If he believes he's still in control. The plan was simple but dangerous. Ivy would go to Victor, tell him she was worried about the business, ask innocent questions about his income sources. Wear a wire. Get him talking. Meanwhile, I'd stay in the shadows, gathering evidence from the outside. What about you? She asked. He's threatened your life. He's broken your ribs 3 times. What if he comes after you again? Let him. Adrian, I'm serious. Every time he attacks me, it builds our case. Assault. Battery. Witness intimidation. Eventually, he'll make a mistake big enough that we can bury him with it. She didn't like it. Neither did I. But we were out of good options. Ivy went to Victor's apartment 2 days later, wire hidden in her jacket. I listened from my car 3 blocks away, earpiece in, every muscle tense. Hey, she said when Victor answered the door. Can we talk? About what? His voice was guarded. About the business. About everything. Long pause. Then, come in. I heard the door close. Footsteps. The sound of her sitting down. Victor, I need you to be honest with me. Ivy started carefully. The accounts you have me manage. Where does that money come from? My fights. You know that. All of it. Because some of these amounts don't make sense for amateur fights. Silence. I could almost hear Victor's wheels turning. Why are you asking? Because I'm scared. Her voice cracked perfectly. Genuine fear mixed with calculated performance. Because Adrian showed me some things, and I'm worried I'm involved in something I don't understand. Adrian. Victor's tone went ice cold. You're still seeing him. No. He came to me. Showed me files. Said you were connected to dangerous people. And you believed him? I don't know what to believe anymore. She was crying now, real tears. You're my brother. I trust you. But I need you to tell me the truth. Have you been using my business for something illegal? Another long silence. Then Victor's voice, low and careful. What I do is my business. What you do is help family. That's all you need to know. Not a confession. but close. Victor, if something happens, if someone comes asking questions, I need to be able to say I didn't know, nothing's going to happen. And even if it did, you're protected. You're my sister. I'd never let anything touch you. Promise. I promise. The conversation continued for another 10 minutes. Victor deflecting, Ivy pushing gently, extracting just enough to establish plausible deniability. When she finally left, I met her in a parking garage across town. She was shaking. Did we get enough? We got something. It's a start. But Victor wasn't done with me. The next morning, I arrived at my job, private security consulting for a downtown firm, and found 2 police officers waiting in the lobby. Adrian Wolf. That's me. We need you to come down to the station. There's been a complaint filed against you. My stomach dropped. What kind of complaint? Harassment and stalking. Complainant's name is Victor Harlow. Of course. At the station, a detective named Carson sat across from me in an interrogation room, file open between us. Mr. Harlow claims you've been following him, threatening him, and contacting his sister despite multiple requests to stay away. I kept my voice level. That's not true. He has photos of your car near his apartment. Timestamps showing you outside his sister's residence on multiple occasions. I've been dating his sister for 6 months. Of course I've been to her apartment. He says she's afraid of you. Says you've been pressuring her. I almost laughed. Detective, Victor Harlow has assaulted me 3 separate times. I have hospital records. X-rays. He's the one who should be sitting in this chair. Carson leaned back. Then why didn't you press charges? Good question. Because I didn't want to escalate things. I thought we could handle it like adults. And how's that working out? Not great, obviously. He studied me for a long moment. You have a military background. Special forces, according to our system. My pulse spiked. That's correct. Interesting that a man with your training would let himself get beaten up 3 times without fighting back. I don't use violence unless absolutely necessary. Or maybe you're planning something bigger. I met his eyes. I'm planning to protect someone I care about from her abusive brother. That's it. Another long pause. Then Carson closed the file. I'm not filing charges. Harlow's story doesn't add up, and frankly, his record speaks for itself. But here's some free advice. Stay away from him. This situation is heading somewhere bad. I can't stay away. Not while he's hurting Ivy. Then lawyer up. Because next time one of you ends up in a hospital, someone's going to jail. I left the station and called Marcus immediately. Victor knows who I am. He's using the system against me. That's chess, not checkers, Marcus said. He's smart. Too smart. I need to move faster. What do you need? Access to Dominic Raines's operation. I want surveillance on the warehouse, financial records, anything that ties Victor directly to federal crimes. That's FBI territory, Adrian. Then put me in touch with someone at the FBI. Marcus hesitated. You sure about this? Once you go federal, there's no walking it back. I'm sure. All right. I know someone. Agent named Paige Lawson. Works organized crime. I'll make the introduction. That night, Victor showed up at my apartment. I heard his truck before I saw it. The engine I'd memorized from 3 beatings. I opened my door before he could knock. He stood there, arms crossed, that same sick grin on his face. Heard you had an interesting conversation with Detective Carson. You're wasting police resources with false reports. I'm protecting my sister from a stalker. He stepped closer. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to disappear. Leave town. Block Ivy's number. Vanish. If you don't, I'll make sure every cop in this city knows you're a threat. I'll ruin your reputation, your job, your life. And if I refuse? His grin widened. Then next time, I won't stop at ribs. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Adrian, whatever you think you know about me, you don't know half of it. Push me, and you'll find out just how deep my connections go. He drove off. I stood in my doorway, jaw clenched, ribs aching, mind racing. Victor had just made his biggest mistake. He'd threatened me in front of my apartment building's security camera, and I had every second of it recorded. Agent Paige Lawson met me at a coffee shop downtown 3 days after Victor's threat. She was late 30s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. Slid into the booth across from me with a file already open. "Marcus says you have information on Dominic Raines's operation." "I do, and I have a personal stake in taking it down." She raised an eyebrow. "Personal how?" I told her everything. Victor, the beatings, Ivy's unknowing involvement in money laundering, the underground fights, the threats, the false police report. When I finished, she leaned back, arms crossed. "You're asking me to investigate a case that involves your girlfriend's brother, who's assaulted you multiple times, and you conveniently have evidence ready to hand over. I'm asking you to do your job. Dominic Raines has been on your radar for 2 years. I'm offering you a way in. Through Victor Harlow." "Yes." She studied me carefully. "What's your angle here? Revenge? Justice? There's a difference." "Not always. I'm not looking to hurt Victor," I said quietly. "I'm looking to stop him from hurting anyone else. If that means putting him in prison, so be it. But I want Ivy protected. Immunity. Full separation from the operation." She didn't know what she was doing. Paige tapped her fingers on the table. "I'll need everything you have. Recordings, financial documents, surveillance. And I'll need Ivy to cooperate fully. She will. And you need to stay out of the way. No vigilante justice. No confrontations. You let us handle Victor." "Agreed." She didn't look convinced. "I mean it, Adrian. One wrong move, and you compromise the entire case. Can you do that?" I met her eyes. "I've waited this long. I can wait a little longer." But Victor didn't wait. 2 nights later, I was leaving my office building when I saw Ivy's car in the parking lot. She was supposed to be at home, avoiding Victor until the FBI made their move. I walked over quickly, knocked on the window. She looked up, face pale, eyes red from crying. "Ivy, what happened?" She unlocked the door. I slid into the passenger seat. "Victor came to my apartment," she whispered. "He knows something's wrong. He kept asking why I was avoiding him, why I wasn't answering his calls. He went through my laptop. My blood ran cold. What did he find? I don't know. I deleted the files you gave me, but he's smart. He could have recovered them. Adrian, he knows we're planning something. Did he hurt you?" "No. But he said if I was hiding anything from him, if I was helping you, he'd make us both disappear." He wasn't joking. I pulled out my phone, started texting Paige. "We need to move faster. If Victor suspects," Ivy grabbed my arm. "There's something else." I looked at her. "He told me about his next fight. Tomorrow night at the warehouse. Said it was going to be his biggest payday yet. Some kind of special event Dominic's hosting for high-level clients." My mind raced. High-level clients means federal interest. If we can get evidence of who's attending, Victor wants me there. I froze. "What?" He said I need to be there to handle some financial transactions. Cash payments. He's forcing me to be part of it, Adrian. If I show up, I'm complicit. If I don't, he'll know I'm turning on him. This was it. Victor's trap. If Ivy went, she'd be caught in the middle of a federal raid. If she didn't, Victor would retaliate. "You're not going," I said firmly. "I have to, no. We're calling Paige right now. She'll pull you into protective custody if she has to. And what happens to you? Victor will come after you the second he realizes I'm gone. Let him." She shook her head, tears spilling over. "I can't lose you. I can't watch him break you again." I cupped her face gently, forced her to look at me. "Ivy, listen to me. I've survived worse than Victor Harlow. I've survived things you can't even imagine. He thinks he's dangerous? He has no idea who he's been fighting. Then why haven't you fought back?" "Because I was protecting you. But that changes tomorrow night." I called Paige immediately after Ivy left. Told her about the fight, the high-level clients, Victor's demand that Ivy be there. "This is exactly what we need," Paige said. "We raid tomorrow night, catch them all in the act. And Ivy, she doesn't go anywhere near that warehouse. We'll have her in a safe location with protective detail." "What about me?" Silence. "Adrian, you need to stay away too. This is a federal operation. Victor's expecting a fight. If I don't show, he'll suspect something's wrong. He'll run. You're not law enforcement. You're a civilian with a grudge. I'm a witness. And I'm the only person Victor will engage with long enough for your team to get in position. More silence. Then, what are you proposing? I go to the fight. I make Victor think I'm there to confront him one last time. I keep him occupied while your team surrounds the building. When you move in, you'll have everyone. Dominic, Victor, the clients, all of it. That's insane. That's tactical. You know I'm right. She sighed heavily. If I agree to this, you follow orders. You were a wire. You do exactly what I say. And the second things go sideways, you get out. Deal. The next evening, I stood outside the warehouse, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was wearing the wire Paige gave me, hidden beneath my jacket. FBI surveillance teams were positioned in unmarked vehicles 3 blocks out, waiting for my signal. The warehouse was packed. Expensive cars lined the street. Men in suits mingling with criminals. Money and violence in one toxic cocktail. I walked through the entrance like I owned the place. Victor was in the back, wrapping his hands for the fight. When he saw me, his entire body went rigid. You've got guts showing your face here, he said slowly. We need to talk. Nothing to talk about. You're leaving. Tonight. Or I'm putting you in the ground. I'm not leaving, Victor. And I'm done letting you control Ivy's life. His eyes narrowed. Where is she? Safe. Somewhere you'll never find her. That did it. Victor's control snapped. He lunged at me, faster than before, fists flying. I blocked, dodged, still holding back, but barely. The wire was recording everything. His threats, his admission of violence, his rage. You think you can take her from me? He roared, slamming me against a concrete pillar. My ribs screamed. The same ribs. Again. 4th time. Something cracked. Louder, sharper, worse than before. I gasped, vision blurring, but forced myself to stay conscious. You don't own her, Victor. You never did. He grabbed me by the throat. I'll kill you right here. In front of everyone. And no one will stop me. Go ahead, I choked out. Give them one more reason to lock you up. His grip tightened. What are you talking about? That's when the doors exploded inward. FBI. Hands in the air. Nobody moved. Agents flooded the warehouse. Weapons drawn. Voices commanding. Dominic tried to run. His clients scattered. Victor froze. Hands still around my throat. Eyes wide with betrayal. Paige walked up calmly. Badge raised. Victor Harlow, you're under arrest for assault, battery, money laundering, and racketeering. Release him. Now. Victor's hands dropped. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, clutching my ribs. He stared down at me, face twisted in disbelief. You set me up. I stopped you, I rasped. There's a difference. The paramedics loaded me into an ambulance while federal agents swarmed the warehouse behind us. For broken ribs. Same side. Same spot. The doctor at the ER said another hit like that could have punctured a lung. Victor had been seconds away from killing me. And now he was in handcuffs. Ivy met me at the hospital 2 hours later, Paige escorting her through the secured wing. She rushed to my bedside, tears streaming, hands hovering over the bandages wrapped around my chest. You could have died, she whispered. But I didn't. Adrian, it's over, Ivy. Victor's done. Dominic's done. The whole operation is shutting down. Paige stepped forward, tablet in hand. Actually, we're just getting started. We arrested 17 people tonight, including 2 city councilmen and a district court judge. This goes deeper than we thought. Ivy's face went pale. A judge. Judge Nathan Kramer. Been on Dominic's payroll for years, making assault charges disappear, sealing records, blocking investigations. Paige looked at me. That's why Victor never faced consequences. He had protection at the highest level. Everything clicked. The dropped charges. The sealed files. Victor's confidence that he'd never be touched. He hadn't just been a violent thug. He'd been an untouchable one. What happens now? Ivy asked quietly. Now we build the case, Paige said. And I'm going to need both of you to testify. Over the next 3 weeks, Ivy and I lived in a strange kind of limbo. She was placed under temporary protective custody while the FBI sorted through the financial records. My apartment became a second office for Agent Lawson's team, boxes of evidence piled in my living room, interviews conducted at my kitchen table. Marcus stopped by one afternoon, surveyed the chaos, and shook his head. You really stirred the hornet's nest this time. Had to be done. He sat down across from me, expression serious. You know Victor's not going to take this lying down, right? Even from inside, he's got reach. Dominic, too. They're both facing federal charges. They're not getting out anytime soon. Federal charges take time. Trials take longer. Until they're convicted, they're still dangerous. I knew he was right. Victor had made it clear he'd rather see me dead than see Ivy happy. Prison wouldn't change that. Agent Lawson's investigation moved fast. She brought in forensic accountants who traced every dollar flowing through Ivy's bookkeeping business. They found shell companies, offshore accounts, layers of transactions designed to hide the origin of Dominic's cash. And Ivy's involvement was minimal, provably minimal. You're clean, Paige told her during one of our meetings. The recordings you made with Victor, combined with the financial analysis, show you had no knowledge of the illegal activity. You were being used. Ivy exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. So I'm not going to prison? No. But I need you to testify against your brother. Tell the jury everything. His threats, his manipulation, how he kept you in the dark. Ivy looked at me, eyes searching. Can I do that? Send my own brother to prison? He sent himself there. I said gently. You're just telling the truth. The deeper the FBI dug, the more they uncovered. Victor wasn't just Dominic's enforcer. He was the linchpin of the entire operation. He recruited fighters, intimidated debtors, handled transportation of cash. Without him, the network couldn't function. And the evidence was overwhelming. Surveillance footage from the warehouse showing Victor collecting payments. Text messages coordinating drug deals. Witness testimony from fighters who'd been coerced into throwing matches. But the most damning evidence came from an unexpected source. One of Victor's former associates, a guy named Kyle Brennan, cut a deal with the FBI, turned state's witness in exchange for reduced charges. He gave up everything: names, dates, transactions, even locations of hidden cash, including confirmation that Victor had assaulted multiple men over the years, all of them connected to Ivy in some way. I wasn't his first victim, just his latest. Paige showed me the full list during one of our prep sessions for trial. 7 men. 7 relationships Ivy had tried to build over the past 4 years. All of them ended the same way, Victor's violence driving them away. One had ended up with a shattered jaw, another with permanent nerve damage in his hand. A third had simply disappeared, too scared to press charges. He's been doing this since your parents died, Paige said to Ivy. Using fear to isolate you, keep you dependent on him. Ivy stared at the names, hands shaking. I didn't know. I didn't know it was this bad. He made sure you didn't, I said. That's how abusers work. They control the narrative. She looked up at me, eyes red. How did you survive him? How did you not run like the others? Because I'm trained to survive worse. And because I wasn't going to let him win. 3 days before the trial, Victor's lawyer reached out with a plea deal offer. 15 years in exchange for pleading guilty to racketeering and assault. No trial. No testimony. Paige laid it out for us in her office. It's a good deal. Guarantees he goes away for a long time. Saves you both from having to testify. What about Dominic? I asked. Separate trial. He's not taking a deal. Thinks he can beat the charges. Ivy turned to me. What do you think we should do? I thought about it carefully. 15 years meant Victor would be in his late 40s when he got out. Old enough that maybe, just maybe, he'd learn something. But it also meant no public accountability. No jury hearing what he'd done. No official record of his violence beyond a plea agreement. I think, I said slowly, that Ivy should decide. She's the one who's lived under his control. She's the one who gets to choose how this ends. Ivy was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Paige. No deal. I want to testify. I want a jury to hear everything he did. To me. To Adrian. To all those other men. He doesn't get to hide behind a plea. Paige smiled slightly. You sure? Testifying is hard. His lawyer will come after you. I'm sure. The trial was set for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Victor remained in federal custody, no bail. Too much flight risk, too many connections. Dominic was in a separate facility, awaiting his own trial. But even from inside, Victor found ways to reach out. Ivy started getting letters. Prison mail, heavily redacted by the censors, but still chilling. You're making a mistake. Family is forever. You'll regret this. Each one made her hands shake a little more. He's trying to break you before the trial, I told her. Don't let him. I'm trying. But Adrian, he's my brother. Part of me still loves him. I know. That's normal. But love doesn't mean you have to protect him from consequences. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I just wish it didn't hurt this much. It wouldn't hurt if you didn't care. That's what makes you better than him. 1 week before trial, Agent Lawson called me in for a private meeting. We found something, she said, sliding a folder across the desk. Inside were bank statements. Large deposits into Victor's personal account, dating back 3 years. Amounts that didn't match his fight earnings or any legitimate income. What am I looking at? Payments from an offshore account registered to a company called Harlow Security Consulting. My pulse quickened. Victor had his own company? Not exactly. The company's registered under your girlfriend's name. Ivy's name. My blood went cold. She didn't know about this. I believe you. But Victor used her identity to set up the shell company. Funneled money through it. If we can't prove she had no knowledge, a defense attorney could argue she was a willing participant. That's insane. You already cleared her. I cleared her of the bookkeeping charges. This is different. This is identity theft, fraud, potential conspiracy. I leaned back, mind racing. Victor set her up. Even from the beginning, he was building an escape route. If everything fell apart, he could pin it on her. That's what I think too. But we need to prove it. How? Paige tapped the folder. We need someone who can testify that Victor created the company without Ivy's knowledge or consent. Someone inside the operation who witnessed it happen. Kyle Brennan. Already asked him. He doesn't know anything about the shell company. It was set up before he got involved. I thought hard. What about Dominic? He'd know. Dominic's not talking. His lawyer advised him to stay silent until his trial. We sat in frustrated silence. Then it hit me. There's one other person, I said slowly. Someone who handled all of Dominic's paperwork. His bookkeeper before Ivy. Paige's eyes lit up. You know who that is? No, but I know someone who might. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. I need you to find someone. A bookkeeper who worked for Dominic Raines 3 to 4 years ago, before Ivy took over. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That's going to take some digging. We've got 1 week. I'll do what I can. Marcus found the bookkeeper in 4 days. Her name was Clara Reyes, 38, living in a suburb 2 hours outside the city. She'd worked for Dominic for 18 months before quitting abruptly, right around the time Ivy took over. She's scared, Marcus told me over the phone. Wouldn't talk at first, but I convinced her it's safe now that Dominic's locked up. Will she testify? Maybe. Depends on what you offer her. Agent Lawson and I drove out to meet Clara the next morning. She lived in a small ranch house, overgrown garden, curtains drawn tight. Answered the door with a baseball bat in her hand. Clara Reyes? Paige showed her badge. I'm Agent Lawson, FBI. This is Adrian Wolfe. We need to talk about Dominic Raines. Clara's face went pale. He's in jail, right? You swear he's in jail. Maximum security federal detention. He's not getting out. She lowered the bat slowly, then let us inside. The living room was sparse, neat, everything arranged like she was ready to run at a moment's notice. I knew this day would come, Clara said, sitting across from us. I knew eventually someone would ask questions. We need to know about Harlow Security Consulting, Paige said. The shell company registered under Ivy Harlow's name. Clara's hands trembled. Victor created that company. Used Ivy's social security number, forged her signature on the documents. She had no idea. You witnessed this? I processed the paperwork. Dominic told me to set it up, said Victor needed a clean front for moving cash. I asked if Ivy knew. Dominic laughed, said she was too naive to notice. Paige leaned forward. Why didn't you report it? Clara's voice cracked. Because I was scared. Dominic threatened my daughter. Said if I ever talked, if I ever went to the police, he'd make sure something happened to her. So I quit. Moved away. Changed my number. Tried to disappear. We need you to testify, I said gently. Ivy's life depends on it. If we can't prove Victor set her up, she could face charges. Clara looked at me, tears streaming. Is she okay? Ivy. I always felt terrible leaving her with those monsters. She's strong, but she needs your help. Clara wiped her eyes, took a shaky breath. Okay, I'll testify, but I want protection. For me and my daughter. Done, Paige said immediately. With Clara's testimony secured, the case against Victor became airtight. Paige's team worked around the clock preparing for trial. Witness lists, evidence exhibits, strategy sessions that stretched past midnight. Ivy and I spent most of that week together, preparing her for what was coming. His lawyer is going to attack you. I warned her. Make you seem complicit, weak, confused. You have to stay calm. Stick to the truth. What if I fall apart up there? You won't. You're stronger than you think. She leaned against me, careful with my still healing ribs. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm betraying my family. Your family betrayed you first. This is you taking your life back. The night before trial, Victor's lawyer made one final attempt at a plea deal. 20 years. Full admission of guilt. Restitution payments to all victims. It's a better offer, Paige admitted. But it's still your call, Ivy. Ivy didn't hesitate. No. We go to trial. The courtroom was packed the next morning. Dominic's associates filled the back rows, watching in silence. Journalists lined the walls. Victor sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled, eyes locked on Ivy the moment she walked in. She didn't look at him. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Morgan Ellis, laid out the case methodically. Financial records, surveillance footage, witness testimony from Kyle Brennan detailing Victor's role in the operation. Then came the assault victims. One by one, men who dated Ivy took the stand, describing Victor's threats, his violence, the fear that drove them away. 2 of them broke down crying. The jury watched in stunned silence. When it was my turn, I walked to the stand with my ribs still taped beneath my shirt. Morgan Ellis asked me to describe each attack. The parking lot, the gym, Ivy's apartment, the warehouse. I kept my voice steady, clinical, recounting the facts without emotion. Victor's lawyer tried to paint me as a provocateur, someone who'd antagonized Victor intentionally. Isn't it true you continued seeing Ms. Harlow despite multiple warnings from her brother? Yes. And isn't it true you have military training that could have prevented these attacks? Yes. So why didn't you fight back? I looked directly at the jury. Because I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. There's a difference. Clara Reyes testified on day 4. She described the shell company, the forged documents, Dominic's threats against her daughter. Ivy's lawyer used Clara's testimony to dismantle any suggestion that Ivy had been complicit. Victor's face darkened with every word. On day 6, Ivy took the stand. Her voice shook at first, but she found her rhythm. Described growing up with Victor. The way he'd changed after their parents died. The control, the manipulation, the violence that isolated her from everyone she cared about. Did you know about Harlow Security Consulting? Morgan Ellis asked. No. I had no idea it existed until Agent Lawson told me. Did you ever authorize your brother to use your identity? Never. Victor's lawyer tried to break her during cross-examination, but Ivy held firm. You expect this jury to believe you had no idea what your brother was doing. I trusted him. He was my family. That trust was a mistake. Closing arguments came on day 8. Morgan Ellis stood before the jury, voice unwavering. Victor Harlow is a predator who used violence and fear to control his sister's life. He broke bones, destroyed relationships, and built a criminal empire on her innocence. The evidence is clear. The victims are real. Justice demands accountability. Victor's lawyer argued self-defense, family loyalty, misunderstandings. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Victor was sentenced 3 weeks later. 25 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for the first 15. Additional charges for identity theft, assault, racketeering, and witness intimidation added years to his sentence. Ivy sat beside me in the courtroom, gripping my hand as the judge read the verdict. When it was over, Victor turned one last time, eyes burning with hatred. She didn't look away. Neither did I. Dominic's trial followed 2 months later. Without Victor to anchor the prosecution's case, the federal team leaned heavily on financial records and Kyle Brennan's testimony. Dominic's defense tried to paint him as a legitimate businessman whose associates had acted independently. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on all counts. 30 years. The underground fight operation collapsed overnight. Life slowly returned to something resembling normal. My ribs healed completely after 6 months of physical therapy. The doctors said I'd been lucky. Another fracture in the same spot could have caused permanent damage. Ivy closed her bookkeeping business and started fresh with new clients, clean contracts, transparent finances. She moved out of her apartment, too many bad memories, and found a small house across town with a garden she'd always wanted. We spent weekends planting tomatoes and fixing the fence. Simple things, healing things. But Victor's shadow lingered. Even from prison, he found ways to reach out. Letters to Ivy that security screened but couldn't completely block. Messages passed through former associates still loyal to him. Most were threats. Some were apologies wrapped in manipulation. Ivy stopped reading them after the first dozen. "He'll never change," she said one evening, tossing another unopened envelope into the trash. "I have to accept that. Accepting it doesn't mean you caused it. I know, but it still hurts." 6 months after the sentencing, Agent Lawson called with unexpected news. "We've been monitoring Victor's communications from prison. He's been in contact with someone on the outside. Someone we haven't identified yet." My blood ran cold. "What kind of contact?" "Coded language mostly. References to unfinished business. We think he's trying to coordinate something." "Against Ivy?" "Possibly. We're increasing her protective detail just in case." I hung up and immediately drove to Ivy's house. She was watering her garden when I arrived, peaceful and unaware. "We need to talk," I said, keeping my voice calm. When I explained the situation, her face drained of color. "He's still trying to control me. Even from prison. Not for long. Paige's team is tracking the contact. We'll find whoever he's talking to. And then what? We just keep waiting for the next threat? The next person he sends after us?" I pulled her close. "No. We end this permanently." "How?" I've been thinking about that question for weeks. There was only one way to guarantee Victor could never hurt Ivy again. We had to give him a reason to stop. I reached out to Marcus the next day with an unusual request. "I need you to spread a rumor. Something that'll get back to Victor inside." "What kind of rumor?" "That Ivy and I are leaving the country. Moving to Europe. New identities. Untraceable." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You're baiting him." "I'm giving him closure. If he thinks we're gone, unreachable, he'll move on. Focus his energy somewhere else. And if he doesn't believe it, then we make it convincing." Over the next month, we carefully constructed the illusion. Ivy listed her house for sale. I quit my security job publicly, told colleagues I was taking a position overseas. We closed bank accounts, forwarded mail to a P.O. box in another state, bought plane tickets to London under our real names. Everything designed to create a trail Victor's contacts could follow. Agent Lawson was skeptical but agreed to help. "If this works, it'll save us resources. If it doesn't, you're painting a bigger target on your backs." "It'll work," I said. "Victor needs to believe he won, that we ran because of him." The plan went into motion on a Friday evening. Ivy and I drove to the airport, luggage visible in the trunk, security cameras capturing our every move. We checked in, went through TSA, boarded a flight to London. But we never left the ground. At the last minute, we deplaned through a secured exit, met by Agent Lawson's team. Our luggage continued on the flight. Our names appeared on the passenger manifest. As far as anyone tracking us knew, we'd left the country. We spent the next 2 weeks in a safe house outside the city, waiting to see if Victor took the bait. Agent Lawson monitored his communications closely. For the first few days, nothing changed. Then, slowly, the tone shifted. Victor stopped mentioning unfinished business, started talking about moving forward, rebuilding connections inside, focusing on his appeal. He bought it, Paige said during one of our check-ins. Whoever he was coordinating with has gone silent. No more coded messages. Ivy exhaled deeply. So it's over? For now? But you'll need to maintain the cover story. Stay low profile for a while. Let people believe you're overseas. We returned to the city quietly, using different names for rental agreements and utilities. Ivy grew her hair longer, changed her style. I grew a beard, took a job under a consulting alias. To the outside world, Adrian Wolfe and Ivy Harlow had disappeared. And slowly, carefully, we built a new life in the spaces between. 1 year later, Victor's appeal was denied. The federal court upheld his conviction on all counts, citing overwhelming evidence and credible witness testimony. His sentence would stand, 25 years with no early release. Agent Lawson called to deliver the news personally. It's officially over, she said. Victor has no more legal options. He'll be in federal prison until he's in his 50s. Ivy stood beside me in our small apartment, listening on speakerphone. When Paige hung up, she collapsed into my arms, sobbing with relief. We're free, she whispered. We're actually free. But freedom came with complications. Living under aliases meant no official records, no credit history, constant vigilance. Every interaction required careful thought. What name to use, what backstory to maintain, who to trust. It was exhausting. I want my life back, Ivy said one evening, staring at the fake ID on our kitchen table. My real life. Not this shadow version. Me too. Can we do that? Can we go back to being ourselves? I thought carefully. Paige said we could return to our identities once the threat level dropped. Victor's appeal being denied might be enough. Let's ask her. Agent Lawson met us at a secure location the following week. You want to come out of hiding? She said, not a question. Yes, Ivy answered firmly. We've lived like ghosts for a year. Victor's locked up permanently. We want our lives back. Paige leaned back, considering. The risk isn't zero. Victor still has connections, though they've weakened significantly. But if you're willing to accept some level of monitoring, periodic check-ins, security protocols, I can authorize your return to legal identities. What about formal witness protection? I asked. The full program? WITSEC requires ongoing threat assessment and participation requirements, Paige explained. You'd need to relocate permanently, maintain new identities indefinitely, cut all ties to your previous lives. Given that Victor's incarcerated and his network dismantled, you don't meet the threshold for full program enrollment. Ivy looked at me. What do you think? I think we've been running long enough. It's time to live again. We reclaimed our identities quietly. Updated driver's licenses, bank accounts, employment records. Ivy reopened her bookkeeping business under her real name, this time with ironclad contracts and thorough vetting of every client. I returned to private security work, though with a new appreciation for the ordinary cases, corporate protection, event security, straightforward assignments that didn't involve broken ribs and federal trials. We found a house halfway between the city and the suburbs. Not too isolated, not too exposed. A place where we could build something permanent. 6 months after reclaiming our lives, I took Ivy hiking on the same trail where we'd gone on our second date. The mountain overlook where we'd shared coffee and talked for hours. She didn't suspect anything when I led her to that exact spot, the valley stretching out below us in golden afternoon light. I remember this place, she said, smiling. You told me that terrible joke about the bear. It was a great joke. It was awful. I laughed, then took her hand. Ivy, 3 years ago, you walked into my life during the worst moment of yours. You were carrying grief, fear, and a brother who wanted to destroy anyone who cared about you. Her eyes glistened. I could have walked away after the first beating, after the second, after any of them. But I didn't, because even then, I knew you were worth fighting for, worth surviving for. I dropped to one knee, pulling the ring from my pocket. Victor broke my ribs 4 times. But he never broke my resolve. He never broke us. And now I want to spend the rest of my life proving that love is stronger than violence, that healing is stronger than revenge, that we are stronger together than any threat that comes against us. Tears streamed down her face. Ivy Harlow, will you marry me? Yes, she whispered. Then louder, laughing through tears. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. We were married 6 months later in a small ceremony overlooking the ocean. Marcus was my best man. Clara Reyes attended with her daughter, both of them smiling, finally free from fear. Agent Paige Lawson sent flowers with a card that read, "Congratulations. Stay boring." Ivy's side of the aisle was filled with friends she'd reconnected with, people Victor had driven away over the years who were thrilled to see her happy. No one from Victor's side attended. Not that we invited anyone. On our wedding night, as we stood on the hotel balcony watching the sunset, Ivy turned to me with a question she'd been holding for years. When did you decide you were going to take Victor down? What exact moment? I thought back to that parking lot, the first beating, the crack of my ribs, and the cold pavement beneath me. The moment I realized he wasn't protecting you. He was owning you. And I decided right then that I wouldn't just survive him. I'd dismantle everything he'd built. Not with violence. With patience. Strategy. Justice. She leaned into me. You really are special forces, aren't you? I'd never fully told her the details. The missions. The training. The years spent in places I couldn't name. I was. But that's not who I am now. Who are you now? I kissed her forehead. Yours. 2 years after our wedding, we received news that Victor had been transferred to a maximum security facility in another state after multiple infractions. He'd tried organizing prisoners, attempted intimidation, refused rehabilitation programs. The system had finally categorized him as irredeemable. Do you ever think about him? Ivy asked when we heard. Sometimes. Mostly I think about how different your life would have been if you'd never met me. Worse, she said immediately. I'd still be trapped. Still believing I didn't deserve happiness. You showed me I was worth fighting for. You showed me the same thing. 5 years after Victor's conviction, Ivy and I attended a veteran support group, the same one where we'd met. We shared our story with the group, carefully edited for privacy, focusing on the themes of survival, healing, and choosing justice over revenge. Afterward, a young woman approached us, tears in her eyes. My brother's been doing the same thing to me, scaring off anyone who cares about me. I thought it was normal. I thought it meant he loved me. Ivy took her hands gently. It's not love. It's control. And you deserve better. How do I stop him? You start by telling someone. A counselor. The police. A friend. You break the silence. That's where it begins. The woman nodded, wiping her eyes. Thank you. Both of you. Victor's final parole hearing came 10 years into his sentence. Agent Lawson called us the week before. He's eligible for a review under federal guidelines. Doesn't mean he'll get out, but you have the right to submit victim impact statements. Ivy's hand trembled as she held the phone. Will he actually be released? Doubtful. His prison record is terrible. Multiple infractions, refused rehabilitation programs, ongoing disciplinary issues. But the parole board needs to hear from his victims. We'll be there, I said. The hearing took place in a sterile federal building, security tight, cameras recording every word. Victor sat at a table in prison orange, older now, harder. His eyes found Ivy immediately when we entered the room. She didn't flinch. The parole board consisted of 3 officials who reviewed Victor's file with clinical detachment. Mr. Harlow, you've served 10 years of a 25-year sentence for racketeering, assault, money laundering, and identity theft. Your record shows 12 disciplinary infractions, including threats against staff and attempted coordination of criminal activity from inside the facility. Why should this board consider early release? Victor's lawyer spoke first, painting a picture of rehabilitation and remorse that contradicted everything in the file. Then it was our turn. Ivy stood at the podium, statement in hand, voice steady. My brother didn't just break Adrian's ribs 4 times. He broke my trust, my freedom, and my sense of safety for years. He used violence to control every aspect of my life, destroyed relationships, isolated me from friends, and dragged me into criminal activity without my knowledge or consent. Victor stared at her, jaw tight. I spent years believing his behavior was protection, that he loved me too much to let me get hurt. But it wasn't love. It was ownership. And the day Adrian refused to walk away, the day he chose justice over revenge, that's when I finally understood the difference. She looked directly at Victor. You haven't changed. Your prison record proves it. You're still violent, still manipulative, still trying to control people from behind bars. Releasing you would endanger me, Adrian, and anyone else who crosses your path. I respectfully urge this board to deny parole. I spoke next, keeping my statement brief. Victor Harlow broke my ribs 4 times because I refused to abandon the woman I loved. Each time, I chose not to retaliate with violence, not because I couldn't, but because I believed in the justice system to hold him accountable. That belief was validated when he was convicted and sentenced. I paused. Special Forces training taught me that the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the most firepower. It's the one who believes rules don't apply to them. Victor has spent 10 years proving he still believes that. Early release would be a mistake. The parole board deliberated for 30 minutes. When they returned, the lead official's expression was grave. Mr. Harlow, based on your institutional record, lack of demonstrated rehabilitation, and the compelling testimony of your victims, this board unanimously denies your petition for early release. You will remain incarcerated and will not be eligible for another parole hearing for 5 years. Victor's face darkened with rage. He started to stand, but guards moved quickly, restraining him as he shouted across the room. This isn't over. You hear me, Ivy? This isn't over. Security escorted him out, still yelling threats. Ivy leaned into me, exhaling deeply. It is over, whether he accepts it or not. Leaving the hearing, we found Clara Reyes waiting in the lobby. I wanted to be here, she said, in case he somehow got out, to make sure justice held. It did, Ivy said, hugging her. Thank you for everything you did to help us. Clara smiled. You two gave me the courage to stop running. This is the least I could do. That night, back in our home, Ivy and I sat on the porch watching the stars. Do you ever regret it? She asked quietly. Not fighting back when you could have, letting him hurt you over and over. I thought carefully. If I'd fought back the way I was trained to, Victor would be dead or permanently disabled. And I'd be in prison. We wouldn't be sitting here together. So no, I don't regret choosing the harder path. The just path. Exactly. She rested her head on my shoulder. I'm proud of you. For being strong enough to show restraint. For believing in something bigger than revenge. I learned that from you. I said. You could have given up on me after the first beating. Told me it wasn't worth it. But you didn't. Because you showed me I was worth fighting for. And that changed everything. 2 years after the parole hearing, Ivy and I opened a nonprofit organization called Second Chance Advocacy. Our mission was simple. Help victims of family violence, financial exploitation, and coercive control navigate the legal system, connect with resources, and rebuild their lives. We worked with FBI agents, victim advocates, lawyers, and counselors to create a network that could respond quickly when someone reached out for help. Clara Reyes joined us as a consultant, using her experience to identify red flags in financial manipulation cases. Marcus Chun provided private investigation services pro bono for clients who couldn't afford them. Agent Paige Lawson served on our advisory board, helping us understand law enforcement protocols and federal programs. We heard from the young woman who'd approached us at the support group years earlier. Her name was Brooke, and she'd finally escaped her abusive brother's control with help from our organization. "You saved my life," she told us during a fundraising event. "Not just by giving me resources, but by showing me it was possible to survive, to heal, to be happy again." Ivy hugged her tightly. "You saved your own life. We just walked beside you." 15 years after Victor's conviction, we received word that he'd been denied parole again. His institutional record remained abysmal. No counseling participation, no anger management, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The system had given up on rehabilitating him. "Do you feel bad for him?" Ivy asked when we got the news. "I feel bad for who he could have been if he'd chosen differently. But I don't feel responsible for his choices anymore." "Neither do I." We attended the Veterans Support Group regularly, sharing our story with new members who needed hope. One evening, a young soldier approached me after the meeting. "You said you were Special Forces, right? A long time ago. How'd you not kill that guy? With your training, you could have ended him." I smiled slightly. "Because killing him would have been easy. Living with those consequences would have been hard. I chose the path that let me sleep at night and build a life worth living." He nodded slowly, processing. "That takes more strength than fighting." Exactly. 20 years after our wedding, Ivy and I renewed our vows on the same beach where we'd married. Our children, a boy and a girl, stood beside us, holding flowers, smiling at their parents' sappy vows. "You taught me that love is patient," Ivy said, voice thick with emotion. "That it endures violence and fear and injustice. That it heals broken ribs and broken hearts. And I promise to love you with that same fierce patience for the rest of our lives." I took her hands. "You taught me that strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can endure without losing yourself. You are the strongest person I know, and I promise to stand beside you, protect you, and honor you until my last breath." Victor died in prison 23 years into his sentence. Heart attack during a routine medical checkup. The warden called personally to inform us. Ivy was quiet for a long time after hanging up. We were sitting in our living room, morning lights streaming through the windows, our grandchildren's photos on the mantel. "I thought I'd feel something," she finally said. "Relief, anger, sadness. But I just feel empty." I took her hand. "That's because you finished grieving him years ago. The brother you loved died the day he chose violence over family. This is just paperwork." She nodded slowly. "Should we go to the funeral? Do you want to?" "No. I want to remember him the way he was before our parents died, before he became a monster. The rest isn't worth remembering." We didn't attend Victor's funeral. Instead, we spent that day at the beach with our children and grandchildren, building sandcastles and watching the waves crash against the shore. Life continuing, love expanding, healing complete. Our nonprofit grew beyond anything we'd imagined. Second Chance Advocacy now operated in 12 states, helping hundreds of survivors annually escape abusive situations, navigate legal systems, and rebuild their lives with dignity. We'd trained volunteer advocates, partnered with law enforcement agencies, and successfully lobbied for stronger protections against family coercion and financial exploitation. Clara Reyes eventually took over as executive director, her daughter working alongside her as a victim counselor. "You too should retire," Clara told us during our annual board meeting. "You've done enough. Let the next generation carry this forward." Ivy smiled. "Maybe we will." After one more story, we returned to the Veterans Support Group one final time to share our complete journey. The room was packed: survivors, advocates, military veterans, law enforcement officers, people who needed to hear that healing was possible. I stood at the podium, Ivy beside me, 30 years of scars and survival between us. My girlfriend's brother broke my ribs 4 times because I loved her, I began. He had no idea I was special forces. No idea I could have ended him with my bare hands at any moment. But I didn't, because revenge would have destroyed me just as thoroughly as it destroyed him. The room was silent. I chose justice. I chose patience. I chose to believe that the system could work if we fed it truth instead of violence. And it did. Victor Harlow spent 23 years in federal prison and died behind bars, while Ivy and I built a life filled with love, purpose, and peace. Ivy stepped forward. For years, I believed my brother's control was love, that his violence protected me. But real love doesn't break ribs. It doesn't isolate. It doesn't manipulate. Real love respects, empowers, and heals. Her voice strengthened. If you're in a situation where someone is controlling you through fear, whether it's a family member, a partner, or anyone else, please know that you deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve freedom. And there are people who will fight beside you to get there. After the session, dozens of people approached us with their own stories. A young woman whose father controlled her finances. A man whose brother threatened him for dating outside their culture. A teenager whose cousin monitored her every movement. Each one received contact information for second chance advocacy, resources for legal help, and most importantly, hope. That evening, Ivy and I sat on our porch one last time, watching the sun set over the mountains we'd hiked together decades ago. Do you ever wonder what our lives would have been like if you'd walked away after the first beating? She asked. Every day, and every day, I'm grateful I didn't. She leaned into me. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned orange, then purple, then deep blue. Adrian. Yeah. Thank you for loving me enough to survive. I kissed the top of her head. Thank you for being worth surviving for. Victor broke my ribs 4 times. But he never broke my spirit. He never broke our love. And in the end, that's what defeated him. Not violence. Not revenge. Just 2 people who refused to let fear win. So here's my question for you. The one that kept me going through every beating, every threat, every moment I wanted to give up. What would you endure for the person you love? How far would you go to protect them without losing yourself in the process? Drop your answer in the comments below. And while you're there, let us know, where in the world are you watching from? It means everything to know this story reached you, wherever you are. If this story moved you, I'd be grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more stories of survival, justice, and healing with people who need them. And here's the most important question. What kind of stories do you want to hear next? Military revenge? Family betrayal? Undercover operations? Emotional justice? Let me know in the comments what type of story resonates with you, and I'll bring more content that speaks to what you're looking for. We've got another thriller coming your way soon. Something epic, something that'll keep you on the edge of your seat from beginning to end. Until then, take care of yourselves and the people you love. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most.